What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. This realization washed over me as I sat on the hard plastic chair of the airport hotel, alone, yet more powerful than the nameplate on my office door. I was Simone Carter, the lead strategist for Alder Capital, standing on the precipice of closing a $500 million deal with Skylink Air as I prepared to board my flight in first class. Yet in an instant, that dream shattered. Upon arrival at my seat, a flight attendant questioned my presence. "Excuse me, ma'am, I think there's been a mix-up," she said, eyes narrowing. The humiliation hit me like a punch to the gut as I was ushered out of first class, the judgmental glares of fellow passengers burning on my back. It was a dehumanizing experience, forcing me to grapple with age-old prejudices that seemed to defy my accomplishments. Amid a storm of anger and disbelief, I resolved to confront the very company I sought to partner with. I would not allow this moment to define me. As I entered the boardroom the next day, I chose authenticity over silence, sharing my encounter like a torch illuminating the shadows that too often hide. The response was mixed, but one thing was clear. It sparked a conversation, opening the floodgates to others who face similar injustices. My willingness to speak out ignited a movement within Skylink, demanding not just change, but accountability. As Ellen, Skylink's CEO, addressed the public promising reforms, I knew one truth: transformation begins when courage overcomes fear. And that day, I took a step towards not just my future, but the promise of equity in spaces where it has long been absent. "Excuse me, ma'am, but you'll need to leave this section." The flight attendant's voice sliced through the muffled chaos of Heartland International Airport. Simone Carter, dressed in her sharp navy blazer, tightened her grip on her designer handbag. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her heartbeat quickening as her confident demeanor began to crack under the weight of disbelief. "I'm afraid you're in the wrong seat. This is first class," the attendant replied, glancing at her as if she were an imposter. "But my ticket clearly states—" "We have to keep this orderly," he cut her off, an imperious look creeping across his face. Beside her, white passengers exchanged glances, some suppressing smirks, others openly staring. "Are you really serious?" Simone's voice trembled now, a mix of fury and humiliation flooding her veins. "You're going to make me walk back down there, while everyone looks at me like I don't belong?" "It's just protocol," he insisted, looking away. "You'll have to move. Look, I'm here for a deal worth $500 million. I won't let you. Move. Now," he snapped, finally raising his voice as if she were a misbehaving child. Simone took a deep breath, a storm brewing inside her as she stepped reluctantly into the judgy aisle. Each glare felt like a dagger, twisting deeper into her pride. Whispers filled the air like poison. "Can you believe she thought she belonged here?" one passenger jeered, stinging her like a venomous bee. How could they not see the weight of her struggle, the importance of her presence? It felt unreal, absurd. By the time she reached the exit, she knew she needed to fight back, not just for herself, but for every overlooked Black woman striving for respect in a world so quick to judge. Simone Carter sat at her first-class seat, flipping through her notes, her heart racing with anticipation over the upcoming deal. But that excitement crumbled the moment a flight attendant stood over her, a hint of condescension in their voice. "Ma'am, we need you to step back to economy. There's been a mix-up." The word "ma'am" felt heavy, like a token of disrespect disguised in politeness. As she walked down the aisle, heat rushed to her cheeks from a chorus of judgmental stares. Each step echoed her frustration, a cacophony of whispers following her, drowning her in disbelief. How could anyone assume she didn't belong here when her achievements curated this moment? That night, confined to a dim hotel room, the situation replayed in her mind like a loop. Her phone buzzed, her boss wanting updates, but every word felt like gravel in her throat. The humiliation morphed into something sharper: determination. This couldn't be solely about her experience, it had to be bigger. The boardroom meeting buzzed with murmurs of skepticism as she stood at the front, steeling herself for a collision of doubt and truth. "I was kicked out of first class," she began, feeling a newfound resolve simmer beneath her skin. "And I'm not here to just accept it." Shifts occurred, eyebrows raised, and some executives leaned in, intrigued yet wrestled by discomfort. Each second felt like an eternity as she painted the truth of her experience, igniting a spark of conversation around the table. Storm clouds brewed in the room, but what began as tension soon wove into the palpable need for change. The air crackled with possibility, and in that moment, Simone grasped a newfound strength, one that wouldn't let her be silenced any longer. Simone stood at the front of the boardroom, her heart steady as she prepared to address the gathered Skylink executives. "I want to talk about what happened last week," she began, her voice clear. The room shifted slightly, some members exchanging glances, unsure of what to expect. "Abolish from first class," she continued, words firm, "not because of a ticketing error, but because of a bias that's all too common." A few heads nodded, and for the first time she felt the tide start to shift in her favor. "It's not just about me, it's about the systemic issues that allow this kind of treatment to happen," Simone asserted, her confidence growing with every word. "This incident can't be swept under the rug. Skylink must lead by example." Ellen, the CEO, leaned forward, a look of concern crossing her face. "Simone, you're saying this has been a recurring problem?" "Yes," Simone replied, meeting her gaze. "A significant number of your employees have shared similar experiences. It's time for the airline to reevaluate its culture. It starts with accountability," began murmuring, some considering her words deeply. A small victory ignited a spark. Her bold stance catalyzed an impassioned discussion. "We can be better," she urged softly, determination lacing her tone. "For your future, for your customers." As the conversation swirled, she could feel the energy of the room shift. They were beginning to listen. From that moment, Simone knew her voice was reclaiming agency, not just for herself, but for countless others who had felt unheard. The journey ahead remained challenging, yet she sensed it wouldn't be alone. Empowered by her small triumph, clarity surged within her. As the boardroom buzzed with anticipation, Simone stood at the head of the table, her heart thrumming in her chest. The dining table was strewn with papers, charts marking projected revenue with her name prominently featured. Yet today wasn't just about numbers, it was a chance to right a grievous wrong. She opened her mouth, her voice steady, drawing from the crucible of that humiliating encounter just days before. "I was kicked out of first class," she began, meeting the gazes of skeptical executives. The reaction was palpable, the shift in energy nearly crackling in the air. "Not for any legitimate reason, but because of who I am." Simone let the words hang like seasoned smoke, heavy with meaning that couldn't be dismissed. A murmur rolled through the room, ripples of recognition and discomfort marking the faces of even those who had previously shown indifference. Across the boardroom, Ellen, the CEO, shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her facade of control slipping. Simone seized the moment, her calm expression contrasting sharply with Ellen's unease. "I've run the numbers on how many customers of color choose to avoid this airline," she said, "and it's cost you dearly." Weakest as Simone spoke, the room quieted. She laid bare the statistics that did not lie, validated by her own painful experience. The executives shifted, glancing at one another. Dissent was waning. Ellen's fingers drummed nervously against the table, and Simone watched that confident veneer crack. Finally, Ellen spoke, her voice shaky. "We need to change." It was a whisper, but the room erupted. The moment of justice had been earned. In that instant, Ellen's acknowledgement of institutional failure was a seismic shift, not just in this boardroom, but the fabric of the airline itself. As the final figures of the $500 million deal were put to rest, Simone felt a weight lift. Ellen publicly pledged reforms that would instill respect from all staff and customers, her lips barely able to form the words they had all needed to hear. The applause from the board, abrupt and unexpected, echoed like a choir harmonizing for justice. Silent, yet powerful, a validation of shared struggle and courage. Simone smiled softly, a quiet victory playing across her features, knowing that this was not just her triumph, but a collective step towards dismantling decades of disrespect. In that moment, she understood. Change didn't come from revenge. It came from confrontation, vulnerability, and unyielding strength. Conspicuous, I reflect on that tumultuous day at the airport, A wave of mixed emotions washes over me. The confidence I felt walking through Heartland International quickly dissolved into humiliation and anger when I was unjustly questioned about my place in first class. The sting of judgmental gazes haunted me as I made my way back down the aisle, a reminder of the weight of societal perceptions that often feel so unfairly heavy. Yet I emerged stronger. The pain of that experience fueled my determination to confront Skylink in that boardroom meeting. When I spoke, it wasn't just for myself, but for countless others who face similar injustices. Unsurprisingly, not everyone was receptive, but it sparked a necessary dialogue that led to genuine change within the company. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt disrespected or overlooked? How did you respond? I invite you to share your stories, whether of standing up against injustice or the fear that kept you silent. Together, let's create a space for voices that demand respect and accountability. Your experiences matter. Comment below and let's start a conversation about what we can do to challenge the status quo.